company is the one that's already forcing entire other business sectors to change their practices to begin incorporating sustainability into their bottom line? It's a surprising answer if you haven't been following the debate. It's Walmart. It's the one that's actually, in a whole bunch of levels, much to our counterintuitive surprise, leading this conversation in a great number of places. And in fact, I mean, much as we all love River Cafe and love the kind of beautifully orchestrated meals that they do in a place like this, the fact is that in Calgary and elsewhere, probably the majority of people will first encounter organic, sustainably harvested food in a Walmart in the next 10, 15 years. They've spent the last 2 years working on the sustainability index, which is a great example, by the way, just how complex this is. Walmart, with 2 million employees and however many $1 billion in sales, found it excruciatingly difficult to actually account for everything they and all of their suppliers were doing and figure out which things were acceptable and which weren't. But the thing how they came to the discussion was even Walmart, even the largest retailer on earth with all kinds of business practices we could spend the rest of the afternoon talking about that we don't like, even Walmart recognizes that business as usual has no future. And if it's coming to Walmart, it truly is this idea that is soon going to be everywhere. And so I applaud Leaf's efforts and River Cafe's efforts to bring that in a more refined sense to the people of Calgary. But why would they do this? And this kind of comes to the final question about bottom lines. Why would a restaurant, why would a giant global retailer bother with all this trouble if it's so complicated, if it's really hard to pin down? And yes, you want to be a good corporate citizen or a good, locally committed business and all that, but there's also a bottom line argument to be made strictly at a business level. And this is the thing I want to sort of leave you with, is that there's a wonderful kind of compound effect. This is the book I'm working on right now, and on most days I don't stand here and enjoy the sunshine and a glass of wine. I'm sort of buried in an office somewhere trying to hammer this out. And trying to get at this idea that when you make that jump to sustainability, it looks like it's difficulty and hardship, and it lands at a place that is always way better than you thought when you started that jump. And that's really this sort of compound multiplier effect that I think, Leaf is going to find, River Cafe is probably already finding, is the wonderful part of the sustainability conversation. And I was trying to think as I was sort of coming over here, what's the story, some little anecdotal example I could give of this that, incorporated the idea of food and sort of got at what I meant. And then I remembered, it was a while ago now, it was about 18 months ago now, it was in New York City. And I was doing some research for a story that never wound up getting published, actually, on the idea of food deserts. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with the idea of a food desert, but this is sort of a sociological term for a phenomenon predominantly in American inner cities, although we see them elsewhere, where you're literally, as a resident of those places, incapable of sourcing any kind of fresh food within walking or reasonable commuting distance. And so you're literally in a food desert where the only things that service you are massively processed fast foods and convenience foods and whatever they sell at the corner store. And I went to visit one of these food deserts that had begun its way out, and it was a neighborhood called Bedford-Stuyvesant, Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn, which, if you see the movie Do the Right Thing, that's the neighborhood that movie is set in. So that's the part of Brooklyn it's in, a very, very low-income, predominantly African-American neighborhood. And the reason I was there was to meet a fellow who had figured his way sustainably out of the food desert. It was a guy by the name of Reverend Jackson, who ran the local food mission, the mission and sort of food bank for this one part of Bed-Stuy. And his story is a great one. He set up the mission like any other Christian mission. We'll give out baskets of free food, we'll take in donations from the community, we'll take money, we'll take food, whatever, turn it into a handful of goods and just give them up to whoever's neediest. But he recognized, he and his wife, who run the mission together, they recognized that wasn't a particularly sustainable model. You don't always have the money, you don't always have the donations. As a very small inner city mission, they weren't going to suddenly see some great largesse that would allow them to be really confident in their funding. And he kept looking out the back of his mission, which is basically just in a Bed-Stuy brownstone, backing on a whole bunch of other Bed-Stuy brownstones. And there's this vacant lot, basically directly behind him. Just a fairly good-sized vacant lot. And he'd grown up in New York himself, but he had family down in the south, farming family down in Alabama. And he knew a little bit about farming. And he kept looking out there and thinking, well, that's a plot of land you could grow food on. There's no reason you couldn't grow food right there in this vacant lot in Bed-Stuy. So he bought the lot with what little money he could get together, it wasn't very expensive, and planted it. Cleared it out, planted it, started growing food. Decided, we will try and grow as much of our food bank food as we possibly can. Knew a little bit about farming, and he did an amazing job. Within 2 years, 8 months of the year, they were almost exclusively feeding people with stuff they had grown in this little mission in Brooklyn. So that was the immediate concern that made the jump for them to sustainability, because all this great compound effect stuff started to happen, which is the really exciting part, which is young people in the neighborhood started to learn for the first time where their food came from, how it's grown, how it's produced, how it's harvested, that sort of thing. So there's a great educational component, a great social component to what they were doing. Older folks who remembered these, because they planted with very traditional sort of southern African American crops. There was all these foods, collard greens and things like that people hadn't been able to get in Bedside for a generation, that they could suddenly say to their grandchildren, look, this is what we used to eat back when we lived in the South. And so there's a great kind of social component there, and an educational component connecting the generations, and all that sort of stuff. And they even got a little, starting last year, I think it was, they got a little farmer's market for a couple months of the year, started out of the mission for their surplus. So there's now actually finally a place in Bedside you can buy fresh produce. And the fact that it's local is kind of a bonus, but they just wanted a place where you could actually get something that wasn't processed and mass-produced. But here's the most inspiring part, the part I want to leave you with. Is when Reverend Jackson was first clearing out that lot, this is how far you can get this sort of multiplier effect when you return to this new bottom line, this new common sense way of doing things. When Reverend Jackson was first clearing out the lot, there was only one thing on the entire lot that resembled something that wasn't a weed that was worth keeping. There was one spindly, sad little bush. And he decided, when they cleared out the rest of the lot, let's leave it. I know this is already starting to sound the cast of a fairy tale, but I swear to God, this is all true. Clears out the entire lot, leaves the one spindly little bush. And when I went to visit the mission, he showed it to me. The bush was now a full-grown, fruit-producing date tree in the middle of the ghetto in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn. And he plucked a bunch down and gave me one best date I've ever had by far. Not just because of the story behind it, but because it was really, really good. I'm sure it had been planned by an Italian immigrant 100 years ago and loved for a while. And that's really where you get to, is there's all of these sort of unforeseen benefits that come from making this jump, because it's the right thing to do. It's just fundamentally the right way to go. And that's the best reason to do it. And to join with organizations like LEAF in this embrace of sustainability is because it is the new bottom line for the 21st century. And it is the place where you will find the most hope and inspiration, and where you will find the best food and the best people, and the people who are working really to kind of make this century even better than the one that just passed. This is our brightest possible future on this track. That's where I would want to leave you. And I congratulate LEAF for their efforts, and I look forward to seeing them in restaurants across the city and across the country. Thank you.